Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Scha Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunamilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vacharam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatanam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyatyesha Tarane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswaminiti Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Acharya Singha Rupane Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragyana Kesha Namane Atimartya Charitraya Swashritanam Chapalane Jiva Dukhe Sadartaya Shri Nama Prema Dayane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namane Shivarshavana Videvi Dayataya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhurya Ujjvala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtai Dinatarane Rupanuga Virudha Pasiddhanta Dvantaharane Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambhar Sambudhe Padambujayate Namah Namo Bhakti Vinodhaya Sachidananda Namane Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarva Bhauma Shri Jagannatayate Namah Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaudatishe Namah He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayatam Shuruto Pangor Mama Mandamatergati Matsarva Swapadham Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpa Gurumadha Srimad Ratanagar Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prishtadibhi Sevyamano Smarami Srimad Rasarasarambi Vamshivata Tatakstitaha Karshanavenu Swanayar Gopir Gopinata Shriyestunaha Bhaktya Vihina Aparatha Lakshai Kshiptascha Kamadi Taranga Madhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Pravanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Hate Vikaku Barakadavadayatya Vacha Yacheni Patya Bhuvidandavaduda Bhatarati Asya Prasadum Abudasya Janasya Kritava Gandharvike Tavagane Gananam Videhi Gandharvike Nijagane Gananam Videhi Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamrita Vahini Kripaya Nijapadabja Dasyam Mahyam Pradiyatam Panchatattvatmakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Asadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Everyone, Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Shri Kartik Braj Mandala Parikrama Ki Jai. Kartiki Devi Shrimati Radharani Ki Jai. Urjeshwari Shrimati Radharani Ki Jai. Damodari Shrimati Radharani Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande. Everyone loudly. Shri Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande. On this most blessed, most auspicious, most transcendentally powerful spiritual day, the first day of Kartik month, the Sharad Purnima day, when Sri Krishna called the gopis with his transcendental flute. The disappearance day of Sri Murari Gupta and the disappearance day of our most revered Param Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila, Acharya Keshari, Sri Keshava, Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj, and the first day of Damodar Vrata, Urja Vrata, Kartik Vrata, Niyama Seva. On this most auspicious day, I am offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the most worshipable divine lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. I'm then offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Raksha Sridhar Goswami Maharaj. Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And on the blessed disappearance day of Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, I am offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams at his lotus feet. My Dandavat Pranams to all of our Sri Rupa Anuga Guru Varga. My Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis, not only present here in our new Braj Dham, but all throughout the world who on this glorious day are beginning their first day of Kartik Vrat. And although by the will of the Supreme Lord we cannot be in the Dham of Sri Vrindavan, Sri Braj Mandala, to observe this Kartik Vrat and Urja Vrat, but we should make our mind very firm to completely take advantage of the process of Kirtan and Shravan and Smaran. Because we cannot physically go by our feet, walking to the holy places, as we have done with our Gurudev for a couple of decades. But we can go in our mind by hearing from the lotus mouth of our Gurudev, as he brought us to all these holy places in Braj Mandala, how he spoke the most sweet, beautiful Harikatha glorifications of Sri Krishna, Sri Radha Krishna, and all of their associates and their pastimes. The studies in Braj Mandala. We want to completely absorb ourselves this month every single day. If we want to take advantage, then we should take advantage by coming in the morning, in the evening, every single day, where we'll have the opportunity to do kirtan, but only small opportunity in comparison with being there in Braj. where we are doing now for 30 entire days, or 31 days. But here we will observe in the morning time the singing of the Ashtakams. Shri Radha Kripa Kataksha, Stavaraj. It's not an Ashtakam, it's a Stavaraj. Shri Namami Nandanandanam, Nandanandam Ashtakam, and Shri Damodar Ashtakam. These three prayers are so powerful. Srila Sanatana Goswami has told how the Damodar Ashtakam, we are going to read every single morning the book in which Srila Sanatana Goswami is elucidating the importance of this Damodar Ashtakam, this eternal prayer. Please don't sing during the class. This Damodar Ashtakam, how this is a perfected prayer. It is eternal. It is not just some prayer, ordinary prayer composed in this world. Sri Sanatana Goswami says this is Nitya Siddha. So what kind of impressions that we can get? What kind of impressions that we will be able to get by singing this prayer every day, morning and evening, during Brajamandala Kirtan. And then hearing the purport, the explanation, given by Sanatana Goswami himself, given by Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami, and also our Gurudev. Then in the evening time, we will, and also offering lamp. This is one very important, indispensable activity during Kartik month. The offering of a lamp to Sri Sri Damodar Krishna, Yashoda Damodar, Radha Damodar. Everyone must do this every morning and every evening. There are many, many vratas and vows to be taken during the Kartik month. We should not do as usual. Srila Gurudev also told us when we would come there to Braj Mandala, how during this month, children have to stop talking. No talking from the children. So, during the Kartik month, we'll also be reading Srila Gurudev's incomparable Braj Mandala Parikrama book. Incomparable. Last night, we were reading his introduction, and he was telling how he came to write that book. What authoritative other literatures and books he was referencing there. How he himself performed the Braj Mandala Parikrama at that time, 50 years. But when he left the planet, more than 60 years. He performed the Braj Mandala Parikrama. How he brought all devotees from all over the world to come there. And he wanted this to continue into the future, not that just only while he's on the planet. Devotees should come. It is one of the most important activities in the sadhan bhajan life of a follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has shown by his own example the form of Radha and Krishna combined. Mahaprabhu walked on his lotus feet to all the 12 forests of Vrindavan. He walked. He did parikrama. That all is described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We did not know the importance of or even the existence of Braj Mandala Parikrama, as we now know, in the beginning days when we first came to India, because Srila Prabhupada did not, our Guru Maharaj, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he was first of all introducing the holy town. And he had a mission to keep the Vaishnavas, in the early stages especially, where they were in the West, so that the movement could be established. Not that everything should stop and everybody come to India, even though it is so very important. But could not be done at that time, even financially and so forth. But in his later years, then Srila Prabhupada had everyone come, who could come. So hundreds, thousands. We went in Navadvipa. Not in the organized way, but we went to visit so many places. But when I, first of all, my own personal experience, when I came for the first time on Braj Mandala Parikrama, to attend that Parikrama with our beloved Srila Gurudev, Pran Kishore Prabhu, he came with his family, Tirthapada Prabhu, quite a number of us who had not been to India for a few years. And I can never forget the experience and the very deep impressions that I experienced there with Gurudev. He used to come with us in that year, even though his health was not perfect, but he came so much throughout the day even. And we also stayed in quite a few different locations throughout that month. Later on, when Gurudev built his temples, he stayed in Vrindavan, there in Govardhan. But in the early time, we moved from ashram to ashram, staying in the various 12 forests of Braj. Like, even pump. Yeah, Kamyavan on the banks, this very small ashram, on the banks of and Srila Gurudev was sitting with us in these holy places. And I tell you, I could not even imagine what good fortune somehow had come to me to be with him in Braj and hearing from him all these years. But Gurudev didn't want just a few persons to take advantage of this. No, he wanted the entire world. And he invited everyone, right? When he would have his festivals here in the West, and he would invite everyone. Come to Braj Mandala Parikrama. And when we were there, at the end of that month, then he would announce to everyone, so next year, all of you should bring minimum 1 or 2 people. You should bring more. The final year, when Srila Gurudev was with us in Kartik, 2010, of course, his health, it had made it impossible for him to not only come on Parikrama, but even to come out and in the temple. We had a closed circuit television screen up on the stage where all the sannyasis and brahmacharis were giving classes. So Gurudev had that in his room, so he could see us and we could see him. But he was very much an internal deep consciousness. And the very last time that most of the devotees saw him was on the final day of Kartik. You can see a video of that. And Gurudev came and sat in a wheelchair. And there was at least about 1,000 devotees, minimum, just there, spread in all directions. And they brought the microphone to Gurudev's lotus mouth. And then he told, yes, I will see all of you in Navadvip Dham Parikrama. He told them. And although he disappeared physically from our vision, but he was there. And he's still here now. And especially in the form of his transcendental Braj Mandala Parikrama book, Navadvip Dham Parikrama book, which we follow every year. His translation also of Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. So Parikrama in the Holy Dham is one of the topmost activities that the Vaishnavas should do as many times as possible in their life, and especially physically going there and doing it there, with all the hundreds and thousands of Vaishnavas. So, we'll be reading in the evening from Gurudev's Braj Mandala Parikrama book. The times have been set now that in the evening time, Kirtan will start at 5. And then class will start at 5:30 till 6:30. Not too late. And then Kartik, then Arti at 6:30. Offering of lamps and the chanting of the ashtakams and so forth will also be done. Devotees should try to come, not just try, make a vow to come. You know, Kartik Vrat is a vrat, it's a vow. Is it not? Otherwise, why are we calling it vrat? You don't take a vrat and then just do whatever you want. You take a vrat to do what Shastra is telling to do. You take a vrat for that. So all but very carefully this month we will follow this vrat. And what is the most important thing in this vrat? Is not only abstaining from taking mustard seeds and sesame seeds and mustard oil, sesame oil, tomatoes, eggplant, and a couple of the Indian vegetables. That's not the only vrat. That's quite easy to do, to not do something. There are so many, there's a whole long list of vratas in the Haribhakti Vilas of Sanatana Goswami. Even should not sleep in a bed, sleep on the floor. But this is not what Gurudev told us to do. We're also sleeping on beds during Kartik with Gurudev. That doesn't mean that we're not following the vrat. The vrat is to 24 hours a day be absorbed in the 9 limbs of bhakti, especially Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam. Yes, 24 hours. Now that's, of course, there are so many activities we must do. There's so many obligations and duties to perform, especially the ladies with their children. And now the men are pounding away every day, all day long. Okay? But we should be absorbed in Krishna. You can even be chanting, singing. Huh? And we should not do mundane activities, like watching mundane television. No, not during this month. We should absorb ourselves in kirtan. Put on a kirtan tape. Watch a kirtan video. Watch a lecture video. If you want to get this blessing. Because you know what? Why do we need to get these blessings? Why? Why should we follow all these vratas and vows and performing these activities of bhakti? You wanted to say?
Yeah, I've slacked off many devotional practices, and this is charging me up. This is reawakening the desire to go deeper in bhakti.
Can you say that once again, louder?
Yes. Having been slacking off in different ways, I feel this is a great opportunity to practice this bhakti of going deeper into all the subject matter of Krishna's pastimes and the Vaishnavas' deeds they perform in order to please the Supreme Krishna, Radha and Krishna.
Yeah. Who is the predominating deity of this month of Kartik? Can you please tell me? Who is the predominating deity that is being worshipped during this month of Kartik? Who? Yes, Vrishabhanu Nandini. Swarup Shakti herself, Srimati Radhika. Like I said, her name is Kartiki Devi. This month of Damodar, it is called the month of Damodar. You can turn to it. The month of Damodar. But Srimati Radhika, this is her month. And everything that we're doing is to obtain her mercy, especially her mercy. But if you obtain Srimati Radhika's mercy, automatically you obtain Krishna's mercy. Krishna becomes pleased when Srimati Radhika is pleased with someone. So we should not think that we're living in some foreign land in the mountains, in the beautiful scenery of the mountains. We should be thinking we're in Govardhan, that mountain. We are next to the Yamuna River. We are in Braj Mandala. Only by Bhav can we be here. We can call it, oh, we're living in New Braj, we're living in New Braj. But how do you live in New Braj? By remembering the actual Braj. By remembering Radha and Krishna in Braj. By remembering the eternal associates of Radha and Krishna in Braj. There is no more powerful time than this Kartik month for that. If we want to become eternal residents of the eternal Braj, we'll have to perform Braj Mandala Parikrama, at least by hearing and by kirtan and by remembering. Manasi Parikrama, Parikrama in the mind. So when we hear Srila Gurudev's Braj Mandala Parikrama book, he will be describing each and every pastime place. And those who have not gone before physically on the Braj Mandala Parikrama, now they can go in their mind, in their heart, along with Gurudev. And Gurudev is following his Gurudev, and all is going in this way. So, Srila Gurudev glorifies in such a beautiful way this month of Kartik. He's describing, first of all, how his own Guru Maharaj left this world on this day. He described very vividly how Srila Param Gurudev, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj was in Navadvip Dham, how they were surrounding him the whole day with kirtan. How, I think it was in the evening, I'm forgetting now, but when he departed, exactly at the time, on this day, which is the day that Krishna called all the gopis with his flute. When the moon rose, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj departed and entered into the Rasliva, the eternal Rasliva. And then they were the whole night performing kirtan. And then next morning, Bhakti Shri Rup Siddhanti Goswami Maharaj led all the disciples of Param Gurudev in performing the Samadhi. And then Gurudev, we've been with him, I don't know, maybe at least 20 times every year on this day. And how immersed in separation mode Srila Gurudev was from his Guru Maharaj. And he would love to hear us calling on us one by one. Now you speak, to glorify his Guru Maharaj. How glorious that personality. We did not see him physically ever, but we met him absolutely met him through the glorification hearing, especially from the lotus mouth of Gurudev and his various god brothers, you know. So today we are also going to hear the glories of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Swami Maharaj. Gurudev also was speaking about, I was reading his Harikatha, how so many important pastimes took place in this month of Kartik. It's a very special month. We'll do a quiz. Which pastimes anyone can remember that actually took place when Krishna was here 5,000 years ago in the month of Kartik?
The lifting of Govardhan.
What?
The lifting of Govardhan Hill.
That's correct. Lifting of Govardhan Hill. Yes. Krishna stealing the butter and getting caught by Srimati Yashoda Maya. Yes, on this particular day, Krishna called the gopis. And then Gurudev expanded on that, because that is not just one pastime. Sri Ras Leela is called the Maha Leela. Of all of Krishna's pastimes, it's called the Maha Leela. You know why? Because in that are so many pastimes. Topmost, highest of all pastimes. So in that Ras Leela, what also took place? The gopis, they searched for Krishna everywhere. And when they couldn't find him and they found Srimati Radhika, they all combined together, they came to the bank of the Yamuna, and they all sat and sang from the core of their hearts the highest song sung by the gopis. There is no higher song, Gopi Gita. Our Gurudev gave us that. Our Gurudev gave us all these important leelas and the 5 songs sung by the Braj Gopis, Venu Geet, Gopi Geet, Pranay Geet, Jugala Geet, Brahmara Geet. I remember being with Gurudev that first Kartik Purnima, and it was the first time that I spent any extended time with Gurudev. Although I had personally met him in 1988, which was 6 years before that. And we had already accepted him. And I'd already met him a second time in 91. But in 1994 was the first time I already understood. But when I had the chance to be with him for the entire month of Kartik, and to hear from him and to watch him, I was astonished. Why? Because Srila Gurudev, he was not concealing his moods on Padmanabha Swami. He was revealing them every single day. And he wasn't just immersed for the few minutes that he was speaking at the pastime places. He was completely immersed in these bhavs, Gopi bhav. Radha Dasyam, mood of Dasyam, service to the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika. 24 hours, Gurudev was like. I was completely astonished. You know, I've told this many times that around, maybe by the middle of Kartik, after we'd already gone for a couple of weeks, and we were in Nandagaon, and we had just left the place where it was in the middle of the thickets of all the thorn bushy trees at that time, called Uddavakyadi. You know what Uddavakyadi is? The place where Uddhava met the gopis after Krishna had left for Mathura, and Uddhava was sent by Krishna to deliver a message to the gopis. And he didn't just stay for 1 or 2 days, he stayed for 2 whole months in Braj, and he watched the gopis. And during that time, there was one particular gopi who began a conversation with a bumblebee, all by herself in the middle of the beautiful forest. And in that conversation, she was exhibiting the highest Mahabhav at all different stages. 10 verses. Each one manifesting the madness, the absolute madness of praying. And all of our acharyas, they have commented on this. So we were, at that time there was not an open area like it is now. Actually that was some Gurudev arranged to clear that area and to build a platform. And also a deity of Uddhava there. But before that, when we went, back in '94, it was, we had to push through these thorny bushes, and that time nobody told us, especially the English-speaking. There were very few English-speaking devotees. Where we were going, then we got there, and Gurudev's incredible and grave, and then he called on Shubhananda Braj to speak, and he just, all the Vaishnavas, you came to understand this is the place where Buddha witnessed Srimati Radhika speaking to the bumblebee. After that, then we all left, and there was a few hundred devotees, maybe 300 at that time, mostly Bengalis and Hindi-speaking. And a long line, you've probably seen photos. Everyone was walking from there, and we were going to go to the hill, the Dham, or Nanda Maharaj's palace. And we were walking in these lines, and so many Vaishnavas, and ahead, some distance ahead, Gurudev was walking. And I was looking at Gurudev and feeling a particular mood at that moment. And actually the mood that I felt was that there are so many Vaishnavas in the world today, and that's back then in 1994, who have come in contact with the Krishna consciousness movement all around the world, right? And they've embraced the movement of Lord Chaitanya, they've become devotees of Krishna. But they missed the opportunity to ever meet in person Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. So they lament so much that they could not have that chance. Just like we lament that we could not have the chance to personally meet Srila Bhaktivedanta Keshav Goswami Maharaj and so many personalities, but especially so many devotees that they lament they never met Srila Prabhupada. And then I thought to myself, looking at Gurudev off in the distance, if those persons could be here right now with this personality on Braj Mandala Parikrama, hearing from him their desire that they would want to meet Srila Prabhupada, they will be completely satisfied. I thought at that time. And it became so true. Because after that, 2 years later, Gurudev began to tour the whole world. We were so fortunate to be with him, going so many places, and giving mercy to thousands, tens of thousands of Vaishnavas. And, he became just like Srila Prabhupada in that sense, in so many ways, just like Srila Prabhupada. And I remember hearing, even after Gurudev came here the first time and sat right here in this room, and on a sofa against the wall there. And how within a few days, the children, some of you are sitting here right now, you have your own children, but the children who met Gurudev at that time, that they said, "Oh, after a few days, he's our Prabhupada. He's our Prabhupada. Because they're children of Prabhupada disciples, and they're always hearing about Prabhupada. And now we've met our Prabhupada. Is that true or not? What I'm telling you. Yes. So many pastimes happen during the Kartik month, Gurudev is telling you. What other pastimes? Krishna killed Arishtashura and manifested Shyamakund and Radhakund during the month of Kartik. Yeah. I don't know if it was in the Kartik month. Which one? What? Huh?
Kirtana?
No.
Not during Kartik.
No, not during Kartik. Because but also Krishna killed Keshi demon, month of Kartik, and Vyomasura. On the parikrama, we would go to the place called Vyomasura's cave. You know who Vyomasura was?
Sky
What do they look like?
Huh?
Sky demon.
Which?
Sky demon.
Sky demon. Why sky demon?
Because he would fly in the sky and kidnap cowherd boys.
That's right. Kidnap the cowherd boys. Vyoma. Vyomasura. So there's a cave. We had to climb up a little there in Braj. Small little cave now. But it was so big there. And kidnap the cowherd boys and put them in the cave. Then Krishna came and killed her. Krishna also killed Kamsa during the Kartik month. Krishna also left Braj on the chariot of Akrura during the Kartik month. So many prominent, very important, prominent pastimes took place in the Kartik month, and Gurudev was glorifying, citing different verses and shlokas. We can give a pillow for him. We don't like to see our devotees, esteemed devotees, sitting on cold floor now that winter time has come. So let us begin our glorification of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and I decided, as I was reading the glorification of him by Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj's glorification. So he's telling, and this is actually an article from his book, My Beloved Masters. So very condensed. He's telling extraordinary instances of an extraordinary personality. Actually, to understand this personality, you will have to read Gurudev's biography, big, thick biography of his Guru Maharaj. So wonderful. You know that Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj? He was one of the first disciples. Right? He came very early before Gaudiya Math had even practically just been established, but they were just at the Yoga Peeth, you know. And he came there with his two aunties. They were disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Yes. And they brought Vinod Bihari there, their nephew. And on Gaur-Purnima Day, he took initiation from Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And on that day, Prabhupada was talking about the future. And he was saying, yes, We will establish temples on each one of the 9 islands of Navadvip. We will establish printing presses and publish all the books of our great acharyas. We will preach all throughout India and the whole world the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the auntie, Sarojini Devi, I think her name was, she said, oh, Prabhupada, right now, here, we only have just barely even enough persons to ring the bell during Arti. How will all this take place? And then Prabhupada said, Vinod will do all. He looked at him. He will do all. And he did. He did. And not only that, not during the presence of Prabhupada, but even after his disappearance from this world, when everything had stopped, all the printing presses, there was so much quarreling, and so much that many persons, many devotees became discouraged, they went back to their villages. But what did Bihari Brahmachari do? He formed together with a few of his brothers, and he established Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. And through the medium of that society, he re-established everything that was going on in full swing during the time of Prabhupada. Again, it became full swing. One of those co-founders was our beloved Srila Prabhupada, co-founding that society. And then, of course, he gave sannyas to my beloved Gurudev, without which it would not have been possible for him to preach the message of Mahaprabhu all throughout the world. So that relationship, how deep is that relationship? And then his beloved servant, our Srila Gurudev, came, the servant of both of them, the servant of our Prabhupada and the servant of his Guru Maharaj. Then he came and gave what he gave, this treasure to the whole world. What connection we have with Param Gurudev. And not just us sitting here right now, for centuries, for tens of thousands of years, for even hundreds of years until the end days will be glorified. So, Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj is saying, my seat, Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, he used to say, when I was in my mother's womb, a renounced person came to our house and gave my mother a sweet, which she accepted and ate. And according to her, this I never had any material pleasures. And why I always wanted to become renounced, and why I came to Srila Prabhupada at a very young age. Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. When Srila Maharaj was a baby, a large bird took him in the sky because he was placed in the courtyard like Bengali mothers do. They do a mustard oil massage of their baby and lay him in the sun in the courtyard. And nearby they're doing some other activity. But suddenly a large bird swooped down from the sky and captured him in his, what is it called, the talons, and brought him up into the sky. Can you imagine that would happen to your little Nimai? You would be absolutely freaking out, screaming, and that's what everybody was doing. They're all calling, calling, calling. And then, what happened? He doesn't tell the details here, but I'm telling from the biography. Then, they're all calling the bird. And then suddenly the bird came down very slowly onto a pond and placed the baby onto the pond on some leaf or lotus flower or whatever it was there in the pond and flew away. He says, such events can never happen to ordinary persons. They are indicative of extraordinary personalities. His next section is titled His Pata Pradarsha Guru. What does Pata mean? It means the same as Vartma. We call it Vartma Pradarsha. So Vartma means pathway, and Pata also means path. Srila Keshav Goswami Maharaj, he made his divine appearance in the village of Vanaripada, Varanipada, within the district of Varishala in Bangladesh, East Bengal. He belonged to a family of wealthy landowners. When he was young, his paternal aunts, here it is, Sri Sarojini Dasi, that's the one, and Sri Priyatama Dasi brought him to meet Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Because Sri Priyatama Dasi left her body early on, we generally hear more about Sri Sarojini Dasi in the narration of Srila Keshav Goswami Maharaj's story. We saw she was a poem describing his whole life. Beautiful in Bengali poem. A jewel among sevaks. In the beginning of his mutt life, Srila Maharaj was known as Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari. And Srila Prabhupada later awarded him with the title Kriti Ratna. This is a designation by which he became very well known. The word Kriti, it means activity, and Ratna means jewel. And therefore the title Kriti Ratna refers to a personality who is expert in performing activities related to the service of Guru and Vaishnavas, and who considers such activities his life and soul. This title rightly befitted Vinod Bihari Brahmachari, as he was a jewel among the sevaks. We, on this day, we would always hear a whole long list of his extraordinary activities. And speaker after speaker, extraordinary activities. Yes. How he assisted Srila Prabhupada. How intimate was his relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Next section, reconciling seemingly conflicting instructions. Reconciling seemingly conflicting instructions. When Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari accepted the shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada at an early age, he stayed as a brahmachari in Sridham, Mayapur. One day, after receiving a letter from Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari's mother, then Srila Prabhupada ordered Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari to pay her a visit at home. He ordered him. Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari meditated sincerely on what to do. On one side was a teaching he had previously received from Srila Prabhupada. What was that teaching? Sakala janme pita mata sabe pai, Krishna Guru nahi mile bajaho hiyai. From Chaitanya Mangal. What does that mean? One gets a mother and a father in every species of life. Sakala janme, in all janmas, in all births, pita mata sabe pai. You'll get a pita and you'll get a mata, mother and father. But Krishna Guru nahi mile bajahum hiyai. It is rare to get a bona fide Guru and Krishna. One must realize this in the core of one's heart. So he had heard that. And he was trying to consider. Now, on the other side was Srila Prabhupada's order to visit his mother. While contemplating these seemingly conflicting instructions, Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari considered that the former instruction reflected Srila Prabhupada's internal mood, based on unbiased truth, and that the latter was possibly given to examine him or his dedication to Srila Prabhupada. Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari concluded, Sri Guru would never ask a disciple to maintain worldly relations through which the disciple becomes bound by the ropes of attachment. Instead, he always instructs his disciples to realize their relationship with the eternal entity, Sri Bhagavan. Therefore, I will follow Srila Prabhupada's instruction to realize the rarity of attaining the association of Sri Guru. I will refrain from visiting my mother's home. By doing so, I will not be disobeying Srila Prabhupada. In fact, he will be more pleased than if I were to carry out his immediate order of visiting my home. So he doesn't tell the details here, but I'll tell more details from Gurudev's biography. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur heard that Vinod Bihari had not left the mutt, he was like hiding in some room, just not coming out. And then when Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada came to that place, and now very sternly, why you have not followed my order? And then Vinod Bihari Brahmachari told what Prabhupada had told him previously about how you get a mother and father in every birth, but to get Krishna and Guru, not very common thing. And he spoke other words to his Guru Maharaj also. That if I go back, then my mother will want me to stay there like this. So, and I remember actually, this was at the time when his mother was in her final days. Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Jiu Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Jiu Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiu Ki Jai. So, when Prabhupada heard that, he was very pleased. He was very pleased. So Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari's instinct to please his Gurudev by remaining in the mutt was correct. And thus Srila Prabhupada bestowed his mercy on him. Now the next section, serving through generosity. Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari's father was a wealthy landlord, and he was therefore accustomed to lavish spending. Vinod Bihari, because he was from such a wealthy family. He was accustomed to lavish spending during this time at home. After accepting the shelter of Srila Prabhupada and joining the mutt, he was given the service of managing the properties of Sri Chaitanya Mutt, which required him to visit various properties in Mayapur on horseback. I remember in the biography, when Prabhupada gave him that order, that he says, I will need a horse. Why? Because he's the son of a landowner, right? So he had a very particular way of dealing with the locals who are supposed to be paying rental money to the mutt and this and that. I don't know if he's going to tell the whole thing, but if he doesn't, I'll tell. So this required him to visit various properties in Mayapur on horseback. Just seeing him made the residents fearful. That was his objective. He would carry a big stick and go on horseback. And whenever he would cross the Ganga, he would pay the boatman not by counting the exact fare, but by reaching into his pocket and offering whatever he pulled out. all the boatmen would beg him, "Oh, Vinod Babu, please come with me. Let me take you across in my boat."
Good customer.
A devotee once complained to Srila Prabhupada, "We labor arduously to collect donations for the mutt, but Vinod Bihari Prabhu needlessly spends those hard-earned funds to pay people much more than they are owed. He pays no heed to the amount he gives. Is this proper?" Srila Prabhupada asked that devotee, "How much money did you spend daily when you were living at home?" The devotee answered, 1 paisa, which was like a couple of dollars or something. You know. "And how much do you spend now?" The devotee sheepishly replied, "About 10 paisa." Srila Prabhupada said, "Vinod Bihari used to spend approximately 100 rupees daily, and now he spends about 5 rupees. So which of you then is truly renounced?" That other devotee had increased, he had decreased. Those who lacked proper vision, they saw that Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari was wasting donations meant for the service of Sri Hari Guru and Vaishnavas. But Srila Prabhupada understood his actual intentions. Through his generosity, Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari was creating allies who would support Sri Gaudiya Math in case of any future opposition. And that exactly happened. And there's a couple more details on his riding horseback. So, you know, some of these people, they did not want to pay their rent and this and that, right? So that's why he said, "I need a horse, I need a stick." And then, when he would meet those people, he would get down from the horse and he would capture one of them. And he would tie them to a tree. And he would beat them, not too much, but, you know. And that would serve as an example for all the others. They would pay their rent. The next section is titled, "An Active Response to a Passive Inquiry." Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari always did whatever was required for the service of Srila Prabhupada. Once Srila Prabhupada unemphatically asked him, "Are we unable to acquire Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhajan Kutir in Godruma Dweep?" You know that place? At that time, the Gaudiya Math did not take ownership of that. So although the question was passive, it held great gravity for Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari. He found himself unable to remain peaceful as long as he had not acquired that property. Such was his service mood for Srila Prabhupada. And in addition to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhajan Kutir, he also successfully acquired the place of Chand Kazi and many other places in Sridham Mayapur. Yeah. He would not rest until he had fulfilled Srila Prabhupada's desire. Now, protecting devotees from violent offenders. In addition to managing the Sri Chaitanya Math's properties, Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari was given the service of managing the institution's court cases. Muslims in those days were occupying many holy places of Mayapur, including Chandrasekhar Bhavan, Srivas Angam, Sridhar Kolavecha's residence, and Chand Kazi's Samadhi. One day, the Muslims occupying Chand Kazi's Samadhi beat a few brahmacharis from Sri Chaitanya Math. Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari was unable to tolerate this violent behavior toward devotees. Being protective, he filed a court case on behalf of Sri Chaitanya Math, and some of the Muslims were put into jail as a result. Srila Prabhupada did not appreciate that the Muslims were jailed. He said, "We should oppose the unrighteous activities being performed rather than the people performing them. We should not look to punish people by putting them in jail, but rather by boldly standing up for the principles that we uphold and speaking out against unrighteous activities." Thus, on the order of Srila Prabhupada, the devotees posted the Muslims bail. Yes, actually Gurudev, he used to say that at every moment, there, in my Guru Maharaj, he had a number of court cases hanging from his body, like pinned on his body, right? All the time. And there's a very wonderful section in the biography, right?
You said also Prabhupada?
What?
Both of them did? Also
No, I'm talking
Gurudev
about...
was saying his Gurudev.
Yeah, Gurudev's talking about his Guru Maharaj. So he always had so many court cases hanging from him. He was very bold. And you know that there's an incident where he gave a lecture to a whole bunch of lawyers. Right? And that lecture was meant to attract them to support Gaudiya Math and to even become devotees. Right? But he was so intelligent the way that he lectured to these lawyers. And then he said, you know, that actually court cases, they are the best service to Krishna. And all the lawyers were beaming. Then he told the story, the pastime of Srimati Radhika being the queen of Vrindavan, and Lalita Devi being the barrister, the lawyer, and Krishna being brought in, that he had done some unjust activity to Srimati Radhika. So now he was having a court case, right, in front of Srimati Radhika, and Lalita was, and then someone else was, I think Madhu Mangal or someone was defending as the other lawyer to Krishna. And this wonderful, sweet, hilarious, joyful pastime, he told that to the lawyers. He said, actually, this is the best service to Krishna. And they all liked him so much. So they were always very positive in their relationships with him. Yeah, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav was such an incredible personality. So, the next section is titled, Risking His Life to Serve Srila Prabhupada. In his time, Srila Prabhupada fearlessly preached against many of the practices and the beliefs of all the Apasampradayas, the deviated philosophical lineages claiming to be in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He loudly declared that it was immoral to charge pilgrims for having darshan of Bhagavan's deity. And it was erroneous to consider that Brahmins are the only qualified candidates for the position of Guru. So his dissemination of Srimad Mahaprabhu's true Gaudiya doctrine, it contradicted and it challenged the tainted philosophies of these bogus sects. And it thus jeopardized their donations and their sense of prestige. Why? Why did it challenge? Because Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was not following the caste system, that only a Brahmin can become Guru and all of this, or also in initiating and giving Diksha, he was not following that only Brahmins can be given Diksha and so forth. No. This is Mahaprabhu's movement. I was just hearing a tape yesterday of Srila Prabhupada, where he's telling in detail about this. How Mahaprabhu, he accepted all from every single, even the Rupa and Sanatana, they were rejected. They were outcast. They had become so close to the Muslims. The whole Brahmin society, they had rejected them. You see. Haridas Thakur, born in a Muslim family. So Mahaprabhu's movement was revolutionary at that time. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur especially, he had to battle and fight against all these deviated sampradayas. Why? Because first of all, they had created a very, very bad reputation for Gaudiya Vaishnavism during the time of Bhakti Vinod Thakur also. And they were like, it became like sex religion. Yeah? Tantric, sex. That was the reputation. Oh, all these Gaudiyas, they are low class. They're like Shudras, but they're, claiming to be Rasik personalities and all of this. They were defiling the name of Mahaprabhu in the name of claiming to be in his sampradaya. So there was a great battle. Both Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But especially, Prabhupada was explaining my Prabhupada explaining in the lecture, especially the caste Goswamis. You know what caste Goswamis are?
Their last names passed down to them.
Yeah, but what are they?
They were born Brahmanas, so they are Brahmanas.
Yeah, but not only Brahmanas, Goswamis.
Yeah.
They took the title of Goswamis. And a lot of them in Bengal, they were coming down in family succession from great devotees of Mahaprabhu, who were householders and who had their lineage. Even some in the line of Nityananda's son, right? And Advaitacharya, like that. But they were prominent at that time, and they claimed to be, like the highest exalted persons in society. And so many of the Bengali people, they all worshipped and honored them in that way. But actually they were just making a living, collecting money, being in charge of such and such holy places, and charging pilgrims for them to even see the deity. Give us some money, and we'll open up the curtain, you can have darshan, like that. So, the caste Goswamiism was not only there in Navadvip, but it was also in Vrindavan and Jagannath Puri. So, during the Navadvip Dham Parikrama of 1925, Srila Prabhupada led a group of about 5,000 pilgrims and 108 mridanga players. At the front of the massive Parikrama party was a band and the deity of Srimad Mahaprabhu, who rode magnificently atop an elephant. The antagonists from the envious Apasampradayas descended upon the Parikrama procession at Prodamaya Tala with the wicked intention of taking Srila Prabhupada's life. Sensing the immense danger his Gurudev was in, Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari did not hesitate to act. He quickly escorted Srila Prabhupada to a safe place, where he then brilliantly exchanged his white clothes for Srila Prabhupada's saffron-colored garments. And he arranged for him to be sent back to the mutt with a few other devotees. Then posing as Srila Prabhupada, Vinod Bihari Brahmachari then waited out the attack at great risk to his life. He didn't tell here the details, but they had paid off police, so that in this central place, it's the same exact place now, you know that place, Prodamaya Tala. They call it Paramatala. The very center of Navadvip town, and the big banyan tree is there, temple of Lord Shiva, temple of Yogamaya, temple of Goddess Kali. So, but there were so many buildings around that central point, and they made a plan that when the Parikrama party comes and all these thousands of people and everything, and Prabhupada walking in the procession with his danda, Vinod Bihari Brahmachari right next to Prabhupada, they started showering down from the rooftops broken glass, bottles, stones, bricks, sticks, even hot boiling water. They attacked in that way. So I've also heard Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, who was there, tell about that incident. And he said, such presence of mind Vinod Bihari had for protecting his Guru Maharaj. Because everyone went fleeing in all directions, as one normally would if glass and stones are running, you're free to some shelter. What did he do? He had such quick presence of mind, so sharp, he immediately saw there was a doorway right there, and he also knew, yes, this doorway is one of our devotees, one of our supporters. And he shielded Prabhupada and brought him immediately into that doorway. Then, inside, in that room, with all the chaos going on outside and everything, and it was very clear that they wanted to kill Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, then Vinod Bihari Brahmachari told his Guru Maharaj, Guru Maharaj, you give me your cloth, your saffron cloth, and you take my white cloth. I will arrange for you to be brought back to Mayapur on the other side of the Ganga. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur took off his sannyas vesh and gave that to Vinod Bihari Brahmachari and danda in his hand. And then he took the white cloth and another devotee brought him back. He risked his life because, he somewhat resembled a little bit Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he was the only saffron-clad person, sannyasi, holding a danda. So Vinod Bihari was ready at any moment to be in a situation in which they would try to kill him, but protecting his Guru Maharaj. So Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj glorified him so much. What kind of servitor he was of his Gurudev, not thinking for a moment about his own protection. So meanwhile, Sri Paramananda Brahmachari, Srila Prabhupada's personal sevak, he disguised himself as a local so that nobody would recognize him as a Gaudiya Math devotee, and replacing his dhoti with a gamsha. Because in Bengal, they wear these gamshas. He placed his dhoti with a gamsha, and carrying a hookah, he went to the police station to report the attack. So very genuine local dress. Gamsha and hookah. He went to the police station to report the attack. The police officials soon arrived on the scene and the crowds dispersed. Just as a person instinctively raises his arm to protect himself from an aggressor's blows, Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari, who was the limb of and non-different from Srila Prabhupada, reflexively protected his Gurudev from not only his vengeful physical attack, but also from philosophical attacks. Through his bold and his tenacious preaching, he fearlessly defended Srila Prabhupada's philosophical conclusions. Firm faith in Srila Prabhupada, the emissary of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In several places, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written that it is unnecessary to construct temples or mutts, as such activities inevitably lead to court cases in which the members of an institution will fight for its various properties and assets. Yet, we see, on the other hand, that Srila Prabhupada constructed many mutts. So we should not, however, conclude that Srila Prabhupada ignored the instructions of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur by doing that, even though Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, not necessary to construct temples or mutts. No, rather, we should understand that he perfectly executed Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's will. As an intimate associate of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada understood the Thakur's heart. Therefore, he could easily comprehend the subtle reasoning and the implications behind every one of his instructions. Every teaching has both positive and negative aspects. In describing the establishment of spiritual institutions to be unnecessary or even unfavorable, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur warned of the negative result of such endeavors. But this does not mean that the establishment of spiritual institutions is without positive aspects. Srila Prabhupada understood that even at the cost of potential infighting, the construction of a mutt will be successful if but one of its residents sincerely progresses on the path of pure devotion to Bhagavan. So all the devotees of Srila Prabhupada's mission, including Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari, worked hard to acquire land and construct and maintain mutts. They never once questioned Srila Prabhupada's allegiance to properly carrying out Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's instructions. They firmly believed that the words and the activities of Srila Prabhupada were in line with the teachings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's approval was with him. And I'll just read one more, because now, one more little section here. We're going to have the Guru Puja. So after the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, then the time came to select a new President Acharya of the Gaudiya Math. Guru Maharaj believed Srimad Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Goswami Maharaj to be the worthiest candidate. When he's talking about Guru Maharaj, who's he talking about?
Who's talking?
Yeah, who is he talking about? Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj is speaking this, writing this. And then he said that at that time, when it came time to select a new President Acharya of the Gaudiya Math, Guru Maharaj believed Sri Srimad Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Goswami Maharaj to be the worthiest candidate. Who's he speaking of?
His own Guru?
Yes, his own Guru Maharaj.
Okay,
Yes, that's correct. Who was very prominent at that time as well. So in this way, he, Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Goswami Maharaj, very highly revered, pure Vaishnava, and one of the most elder as well. And he was actually a Harinam disciple of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and later he took sannyas from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So our revered Bhaktivedanta Madhava Goswami Maharaj considered him to be the worthiest candidate. Now, however, in due time, Sri Ananta Vasudev Prabhu was unanimously appointed to the position of Acharya, with Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari serving as secretary. When Ananta Vasudev Prabhu's ill repute came to light, Sri Vinod Bihari Brahmachari called for Guru Maharaj, and he said to him, I agree with Prabhu, that's the name of Bhaktivedanta Madhava Maharaj before he took sannyas. I agree with Prabhu. We have stuck our hands in wet stool. Had it been dry, it would not have been so revoltingly foul-smelling. But unfortunately, the reality is that its stench and repulsiveness are excessive. We must feel remorse and atone for having supported Ananta Vasudeva and for having taken so long to understand what was actually going on. An incompetent person should be helped, but an incompetent person who makes fools of the general public by playing the part of a competent leader must be shunned. Let us help the people of the world by exposing this person so that everyone may see his true nature. He continued to tell him, this is who talking to who? Bhakti Vinod Bihari Brahmachari talking to Griva Brahmachari. And then he told to him, because of your refined, gentle Vaishnava temperament, everyone considers you a friend and gives importance to what you say. Therefore, please bring everyone together and arrange a meeting so that we may together determine how to oppose him. As per Vinod Bihari Brahmachari's request, Guru Maharaj gathered their godbrothers together and held a meeting whereupon it was decided to file a court case against Sri Ananta Vasudeva Prabhu. It was this court case that made it that the new institution was started, and some of the other godbrothers also started their own temples, institutions, and a preaching class till 6:30, and we will speak about Gurudev's Brajamandala Parikrama book and read from his introduction and begin our